What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Comic Source. My name is Billy, and today we're going to be talking about WandaVision Episode 6. So we lead off with a Malcolm in the Middle style intro, like the "You're not the boss of me now." And I loved it because at the end it kind of just confirms that Pietro does have Quicksilver's powers, even though there's like hints throughout the whole episode that it's not actually him, it's somebody else pretending to be him. But I don't know, I'm kind of suspicious of everybody at this point. And then we get a fun scene where Pietro scares the twins as they're discussing why they don't want to wake him up. They think he's a vampire. Typical kid stuff. And then Wanda comes down the stairs in her completely comic accurate costume where she says that she's a Sokovian fortune teller, which prompts Pietro to bring up a flashback to when they were children in Sokovia. But Wanda doesn't remember it exactly like that. So that is just hint number one as to why I don't think that Pietro is actually, legitimate. And then Vision comes downstairs in his comic-accurate costume, which looks goofy. He is completely red. I've never seen anything more red than his face. And then you can tell that there's, a real strain in their relationship. Everything's starting to splinter apart. The whole reason that Wanda is doing this is so that she could be with Vision and her family again. But Vision doesn't want to be here. And then, of course, this whole time, Billy is in his actual comic-accurate costume, but then Pietro puts himself and Billy in his comic-accurate costume, which I thought that was really cool. And then we're pulled outside of the Hex, where they're bringing in the missile that Wanda threw back at them, which I wanted to point out something I didn't say last week, which was that there's another reason why Tyler Hayward is a dick, and it's because that missile was a Stark Industries missile, i.e. the same kind of missile that killed her family. So you can only imagine her reaction when she saw the word Stark Industries on that missile. And then, of course, Hayward kicks them out of the operation. And I was surprised, just like I'm sure everybody else was, to see Jimmy throw hands. I was very excited when Jimmy threw him hands. And now we're going to get them kind of just working on their own. I'm curious to see how they're going to be able to work together once they're inside of the Hex. Because obviously they won't really retain all of the knowledge that they have from the outside. It'll kind of be like Monica, where she was pulled back out by Wanda when she was in her house. But I'm not exactly sure. I feel like we might get a really annoying for us scene where Jimmy, Darcy, and Monica all see each other, but they don't know each other. I don't know, that's just going to be really interesting to watch out. And then we join their Halloween candy getting spree, where Wanda starts to kind of interrogate Pietro because she knows that he looks different. She wants to see if it's actually Pietro. And then we get a funny reference where, of course, both of the actors that played Quicksilver in the Fox and the Marvel Universe both were in Kick-Ass, and then they reference Kick-Ass. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I loved Kick-Ass as a kid, so that was really fun to see. And I'm curious to see how he knows so much. Because, of course, like he said, he got shot like a chump in the street for no reason and then woke up later. But everything that he's referencing, Vision dying, stuff like that, it all happened after he died. So how does he know that? And I just want to know, is he an extension of her subconscious, which is why he kind of retains those memories that Wanda knows about and, of course, everybody else knows about? Or is he influenced by some larger power? And then, of course, Herb gets pranked by Pietro and the twins. And then he asks Wanda if she wants anything changed, similar to when Agnes asked Wanda if she wanted to take it from the top in the previous episode. And then we get to the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen, where Vision sees a woman trying to hang up her clothes on the drying line and she can't do it. And then the tear that flows down her face. And then we get our commercial for this episode, which is a kid sitting on an island, and he gets greeted by a shark that gives him yogurt because, he's starving, and it's kind of similar to those Capri Sun commercials back in the day. As you know, the kid, he sits there and he tries to open up the yogurt and he can't do it, and then he ends up dying. I just want to know, is that similar to the people that are in the town that are complacent, the people that are maybe outside of Wanda's range, so to speak, and when they're sitting there stuck, like the woman that was trying to hang her clothes up, the people that Vision saw in the cul-de-sac, are they starving to death? Are they actually having physical pain from, having to be frozen like that, if that makes sense? I don't know. I really can't think of what else that commercial might mean besides that. And then after that's when Tommy gets his powers and he starts sprinting all over the place because, if you're a kid and you got super speed, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to run around town like a maniac. And then that's when we cut to Monica and crew trying to figure out Hayward's secrets, and they notice on the map that they have the ability to track Vision's vibranium decay rate in order to see into the Hex to be able to track him, and they see that nobody is moving around him. And then that's when we cut into Vision in that cul-de-sac that I was talking about, where nobody's moving and he's starting to freak out on the inside, basically. And then that's when we see Agnes on Ellis Avenue, the avenue that Wanda was trying to tell her kids not to go past because that's the edge of the Hex. And you can only assume that Agnes was there at Ellis Avenue because she was trying to leave, but Wanda would not let her. And then obviously Vision doesn't know what an Avenger is because he has no recollection of what happened before the Hex. And we can see that Agnes is hysterical. So I'm curious to see exactly what about her character that we don't know. Because I know that she has a larger purpose than what she's shown to be on screen. But an act like this kind of just assumes that she's just another one of those people that are just trapped under Wanda's supervision. and she does not want to be there, rather than an overlaying figure, and she's trying to help out that overlaying figure by, studying Wanda or this, and that, the other thing. And then that's when Vision starts to walk to the edge. And then we come back to Monica and crew, where Jimmy and Monica are going to go back into the Hex to try and figure out where Jimmy and Monica are going to go back into the Hex because they have somebody that's going to help them out. I'm really curious to see who that person was going to be. But that's when Darcy tries to show Monica her lab results and that all of her cells have been changed every time that she... Gotta love dropping stuff off your desk. But her cells are starting to change every time that she goes into the Hex. And this could be something that they use to activate the mutant gene or the X gene. And then that's when Darcy wants to stay behind to learn all of Hayward's secrets. And I can't remember exactly if it was in this scene or in the next scene that we see Darcy. But on the computer, it says Operation Cataract. As well as Operation, I can't remember the exact numbers. It was Operation like 1313 or something like that. And those are just numbers that Disney loves to use a lot. But Operation Cataract, I think, is just a name to be able to track Vision in the Hex. Because, a cataract is something that's over your cornea that they remove to be able to have, vision. And vision is their way to see into the Hex. I don't know. I just think that that's pretty straightforward. And then this next scene with Wanda and Pietro is what elevates my suspicion of Pietro. Because he's interrogating her. He's trying to figure out stuff about the Hex, trying to figure out how she started it, trying to figure out how it works. Why does he want to know all of that? Who is he? Because as of right now, he just looks like he's MCU Pietro with the skin of Fox Pietro. But is it even him in general? Or is it somebody else? And then, of course, Wanda sees a dead Pietro because every time that she's reminded of the outside universe, she kind of loses focus, I think. And that's why she starts to see, the dead Vision from a couple episodes ago. And then, of course, the dead Pietro in this scene. And then a thought process that I had was maybe he just knows that Vision's dead because he's also dead. And then that's when Vision leaves the Hex. And he died when he exited the Hex. That was brutal that he was ripped apart piece by piece back into the Hex. And then that's when Billy gets his powers. And he can hear Vision and see the outside of the Hex. And he starts to get worried because, obviously that's his dad. And then that's when Pietro says, no, it's okay. It's not like your dead husband can die twice. Not a good idea, bro. Don't do that. Don't taunt her. And then that's when Wanda goes into the Avatar state like she's Avatar Aang. And she expands the Hex to cover Vision and some of the sword agents around the border. And then we only see Agent Dickhead and his really close constituents inside of an SUV. They're the only ones that escape it. So I'm curious to see next episode what's going to happen with, Jimmy, Darcy, and Monica having to be in the Hex. And then I wonder if Vision totally remembers him leaving the Hex and what kind of conversation that sparks with the next time that he sees Wanda, because he's going to know that he's dead. And then that's what brings up my profound theory for the rest of the series. I think that this series is going to end with Wanda doing that same thing where she expanded the Hex, but I think she's going to expand it to the entire world. And then that's going to be their version of the No More Mutants. But maybe this time they bring in mutants. Because they've already started to do that. Tommy and Billy are canonically the first two mutants to be in the MCU. So I'm really curious to see which direction they go with that. But that's going to do it with this week's episode, guys. If you enjoyed, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. See you next week. Peace.